The real estate market slump that began in 2022 is slated to continue for much of this year in 2023, while it continues to be constrained by high mortgage rates and absorbing this slowing economy. Now, at the same time, the British Columbia Real Estate Association has come out and said that they are expecting a large rebound in the market in 2024. Now, does this make sense with the second lowest sales for January ever that we had last month? Record low inventories that we've had over the last few months. In this video, I'm going to dive into the most important developments, factors, and trends that you need to know about if you have any interest in buying or selling real estate of any kind within the next 1 to 3 years. And definitely stick around for the one product class that is going to outperform them all and is very much worth the investment, and if you already own it, not to sell it. After watching this video, make sure to go down below and comment and let me know your thoughts on where you think the real estate market is headed in the next 6 months to 2 years and what you think is going to be the best investments or the best things to stay away from. Hey everybody, my name is Jonathan Lerner with the Vancouver Life Real Estate Group and eXp Realty, and I am here bringing you new videos every single week on this YouTube channel to share with you what is happening in the real estate market so you can make better informed decisions. I also specialize in the Richmond area, so if you are wanting to live, work, play, or laugh and just learn about the city and what it has to offer, definitely reach out and let's have a chat more about what that might look like for you. Let's dive into where the market has been and where it is right now. The Central Bank of Canada has raised interest rates by 450 basis points since March of last year, and prices peaked at that point and they've since dropped 12.1% across Metro Vancouver. Inventory has also fallen off the map and we've hit record lows and had record months of low inventory, which is not a good situation, and we already had a housing crisis. And as much as it doesn't sound like that's been a big news headline, it's just been taken over by inflation, but it's still something that is very prominent. Now, with all the inflation announcements and interest rate hikes, the Bank of Canada, thankfully, on their January 25th announcement, said that they are pausing hikes as long as all the economic data continues to show that inflation is on a downward trend and moving in the right direction. But that's not to say that they won't raise them again if that changes. Here's the other thing that's really interesting to note and should play into your factors and decision when it comes to real estate. The British Columbia Real Estate Association forecast that they just released yesterday, and this relates to how the markets turn around when it comes to housing and recessions. Historically, the housing market has tended to lead the business cycle, and the onset of a recession generally coincides with the start of a housing market recovery and a significant increase in activity over the following year as the economy recovers and the effects of falling mortgage rates materialize. We're not there quite yet, but it looks like we're probably going to see some more layoffs and a downturn in businesses and potentially home prices slightly more here in the Greater Vancouver area over the next 2 to 3 months. Though, based on recent developments and trends that are starting to happen, there's definitely an argument that businesses are going to start regaining momentum in the next 4, 5 to 8 months, especially if inflation continues on its downward trend. If it does, then businesses are going to be able to better handle their debt load and their monthly expenses, and then start to devote more of their monies back into marketing and advertising to be able to focus on growth rather than just trying to make sure that they are hitting their bottom line. This in turn will then lead the charge in a rebound in the real estate market in 2024. We're seeing the beginning of that happening now. In the last 11 months, we've been in a downward market. However, the sentiment around real estate as an investment and something that you want to put your money to is starting to shift. And we're seeing that in a big way. And I think a big part of that is that people are starting to see stability in the economy and just the world in general. And as a result, that's increasing their confidence that there's not going to be some completely unexpected event happen or that things are going to get drastically more expensive, as it looks like things are moving in a positive direction now. Let's dive into the facts, trends, and info that you need to know if you have any plans on buying, selling, or holding the real estate that you currently own. Number one, we have a shortage of workers. In the news and the headlines, we've been hearing about corporations laying off many of their employees, thousands of their employees. And again, it looks like that will continue for a few months' time. Most of this has happened primarily in the States, although it is happening up here in Canada as well. But we still have record low unemployment, and we have 850,000 job vacancies. BC's unemployment levels are at 4%, and our employment levels will weaken with the economic slowdown in the coming months. But what it looks to be that's going to come from is not so much from a loss of jobs, but really a slowdown of hiring. Here's something really unique to think about, especially when it comes from the lender and the big bank perspective. The number one thing that creates risk for them is employment. And the fact is that most people are employed right now with a 4% unemployment rate here in BC. And if for whatever reason they lose their job, there's 850,000 job vacancies to choose from here in Canada. So majority of people are employed, so mortgages are going to continue to be paid by the vast majority. So they are still willing to be able to give out money knowing that fact. And with that in mind, fixed rates have already begun to be decreased by the big banks. So that is improving the ability of people to be able to borrow more money and be able to get back into the market. I'd love to hear from you. Comment down below. What is your job market and an atmosphere and environment like right now? That brings me to point number 2, that mortgage rates are set to fall. And one of our big contacts at one of the big banks has said that his bank and multiple others are planning on pricing in discounts and interest rate reductions as we get later into this year. And instead of just taking their word for it, one of the biggest things that you can do is look at the 5-year bond yield to see where interest rates are likely to go. Now I want you to take a look at this graph right here. And essentially what you want to do is look at the history, and the history of the 5-year bond yields has had a strong track record of signaling what is going to happen in interest rates. On this graph, you're going to see these two lines flowing fairly close together, but then starting to diverge, and there is a much, much greater spread right now. And when bond yields are low and interest rates are high, the banks are typically making a strong profit on what they're borrowing and lending. And when they're making this profit, they have the ability to cut their rates and be more competitive. So what happens next? Well, you need to understand one more thing, and that is how the velocity of sales is influenced by the flow of credit. When interest rates rise, your borrowing power, your purchasing power is reduced. So you're not able to have as much credit. You're not able to borrow as much capital. So as a result, you spend less, or you're taken out of the real estate market, or you change what your plans are there. If what is expected to happen later this year and rates are starting to drop, who knows by how much, that will increase consumer confidence, that will increase borrowing power, purchasing power. So now more people will come into the market because now they can afford more. There's also going to be anticipation that prices in the real estate market are going to start to increase. And at the same time, we're still in this spot where we are in super, super low inventory, record low levels of inventory. And if that continues, you can absolutely bet that next year, 2024, we are going to have a seller's market because we are still in a housing supply crisis. And if you are a buyer, that is going to make it very, very difficult for you to be able to jump into the market, and because you're going to be competing again, and we're going to have multiple offer scenarios. And in fact, right now, anecdotally, our real estate team, we've put in 4 offers or been a part of 4 offers on the selling and buying side in the last 2 weeks. And those 4 were in multiple offer scenarios. And so it's already started to happen in the market. If things start to improve in that direction, it creates a very strong argument that right now and in the coming 3, 4, 5 months is a very strong potential based off of your circumstances to want to get into the market if you're not already in it. But every situation is different. So go down below this video, click the link to book a 30-minute call with me, and let's have a chat to see what makes sense for you. This brings me right into point number 3 of our record low inventory levels and just wondering where the sellers have gone. We've been on a downward trending market for about 11 months now with rising inflation, with our interest rates going through the roof. The cost of living has just increased dramatically. And to boot, on top of that, we've had a 12% decrease in home prices on average over the past 11 months since the interest rates started. And so sellers are not wanting to list their homes because they're leaving a lot of potential money on the table. There's also a lot of people through that time that refinanced their homes and got 5-year fixed rates at 2% or less. And so they don't want to lose that drastically low cost of living. And so they're also not putting their homes up for sale at that point. So that is not making the market and our housing crisis any easier, especially if you're on the buying side. Point number 4 on why the real estate market is going to rebound in 2024, and that is immigration. I've touched on this before, but last year in 2022, we brought in over 850,000 people into the country of Canada, and over 400,000 of those got their permanent residency status, meaning that they have the ability to buy a home. And so most people, immigrants, when they come into the country, they will rent for about 1 to 2 years, and then they'll look at the possibility of being able to purchase. They want to be able to live in an area. They want to be able to see what the good parts are, what the bad parts are, where they want to live, and also what their budget allows them to be able to get. And so that is a massive, massive increase in numbers of people that just need a home to stay for rentals as well as potential for purchasing. But for the other 400,000 that didn't purchase, if they end up staying here in 1 to 2 years, they're going to be looking at the market. And then in every year until 2025, Canada wants to build up to giving 500,000 people each year their PR status. And so that is going to further increase the demand on housing, the demand to be able to buy property, not just renting. But it also facilitates the incentive to be able to rent as well and have a property as an investment, because we just have the bodies. And across the majority of Metro Vancouver, at least west of Coquitlam, we are in many areas less than a 1% vacancy rate. So you know that very likely if you have a decent place, and especially if it has access to transit that's not too far away in terms of walking distance, you're going to be in a pretty good position to be able to have that rented out. Point number 5, and the most important thing that you need to be aware of, and this is happening specifically in the city of Vancouver, but I want you to take this understanding to all the other surrounding cities, because they are all going through it in some way, shape, or form, and it's determining what the best opportunity is in that city based off of this. And so right now, the city of Vancouver is trying to increase density, right? We have a lot of people come to the city every single year, more and more with the immigration goals that we've met and been meeting by the federal government. And so we need to provide more housing. And so one of the biggest ways that they're thinking about doing this, and it's yet to be voted on, but it has been proposed and it will be voted on soon, is a blanket rezoning of all of Vancouver except for the downtown core, to be able to remove single family detached home zoning RS1 and replace it and rezone everything to have an automatic approval to either build up to a 4-plex or a 6-plex, depending on where you are in the city and if your lot size allows for that. So there's going to be specifications around how big of a building you can build based off of the size of the lot and the dimensions of it, but it will be a blanket rezoning to have automatic approval. If you take a look at this map right here, the blue-green area will have an automatic approval for a 4-plex, or I should say up to a 4-plex, and all the yellow zoned area will have an automatic approval of up to a 6-plex. Again, that just depends on dimensions and the size of the lot, but essentially all a developer now has to do, instead of going through a rezoning application, going through hearings with the city and hearing from different people in and around the community and doing amendments to the plans, having an addition of certain parks or recreational things as you build a building, that gets all taken away because it is an automatic approval for a 4-plex or a 6-plex, and all the developer has to do is say, here's my plans for the building, it abides by all the different code and stuff like that, and then they say, okay, these plans are good, boom. And it drastically will reduce the time frame, it will reduce the holding costs, it will reduce the overall total fees and permits and everything required to be able to build on a lot. And so instead of what you see a lot of happening right now, single family homes being turned into a duplex, now there's a likelihood that that can be turned into 6 different units. And so what this is going to do, if you have and you own land, if you are a detached single family home owner, my probable recommendation, especially in the city of Vancouver, is to not sell if you've had thoughts of it. Why? Because when you have a single family home on a lot, you can house one family. But if you tear that down and rebuild it, and you have the ability to be able to potentially have 6 units, you can house 6 families on that plot of land, you are now increasing the value of that land. So the potential value of that land with a single family home is not being maximized, but it costs a lot more to be able to buy that land in the future because of the potential to redevelop it and provide more housing and create a bigger profit off of it. So this leads into, if you do own a home right now, a detached home, let's have a conversation if you were thinking about selling, because it may or may not make sense to be able to sell it if you have the ability to hold on to it for a longer period of time, and you'll very likely sell for a much higher dollar amount, especially as we move into 2024 or 2025. Now, if you were looking to buy and you have the budget for a single family detached home, I'd highly recommend doing everything you can to look at that opportunity, because I think there's going to be a very strong potential and likelihood and opportunity for greater appreciation of that asset class over anything else. I mean, there always has been in detached homes, but to an even greater level, especially if this blanket rezoning has that potential to be able to move up. To add on top of that, single family detached home building starts have decreased by 25% just over the last 3 months. And they've already been on a steady decline since the Vancouver's official community plan came out saying that they had plans to remove this RS1 zoning, single family detached home zoning. And so that already came out. So builders and developers have been preparing for this. And because why would they tear down one home to build a single family home or a duplex when they could tear down that home and build a 4, 5, or 6-plex and create a much better profit margin for themselves? Business-wise, it makes so much more sense. It aligns with what the city wants because we need more densification. We need more housing for more people, for both rentals as well as homes for people to be able to purchase. And so it makes sense that this is going to go through, and the single family home is just dying out of necessity for homes and providing more homes for more people. And so if you do own that plot of land, it is, and you've been thinking about selling, think again. If you don't need to sell in the next year, I'd probably hold on to it. Every situation is different. So reach out to me. Let's book a call. Let's chat about your situation. If you're looking to buy and you have the budget to be able to jump into that category, well, then I definitely recommend doing a hard search right now and getting involved in that asset class, because there are some big changes coming and some big appreciation. And it looks like we're getting closer to the bottom. I'm not going to call it, but big banks are saying that it is coming in the coming few months. And so your price is about as low as you're going to get it right now. However, buyers are flocking into the market right now, and we're getting lots of competition is starting again. So prices for the first week of February are actually on the uptrend as more competition is starting to happen. So be aware of that. There's lots of big changes. This is why all these facts, info, trends are showing that we are primed for a very strong rebound in the real estate market in 2024. If you gained some value from this video, please make sure to like, to subscribe, and to click that bell to get notified of future videos as they come out. And please share this video with someone who you know will gain some value out of it. And I'd also love to hear your comments. What do you think the real estate market is going to go? Do you think I'm on the mark, or do you think I'm way off base? I'd love to be able to have that conversation with you. So add some comments down below this video, and I can't wait to be able to have that conversation with you. And you have questions about your situation and what might be the best next step for you, right down below this video, you can click that link to book a 30-minute call with me, and let's go from there.